Tensions in the Middle East have been extremely heightened in recent times. One of the main missions of the United States Navy is freedom of navigation for all among the high seas, which is why we see regular deployments of U.S. Navy vessels all around the world. As situations have escalated in Yemen, ships in the Red Sea, including naval warships, have been targeted, leading U.S. naval helicopters to take out the attacking forces. Stick with us as we dive into the details of this emerging conflict. Maersk, a global shipping giant, was forced to suspend operations in the Red Sea at the end of 2023 amid recent attacks. Yemen's Houthi rebels claim to have been performing tasks meant to establish security and stability and protecting maritime navigation when U.S. forces struck back. Times are tense in the Middle East. The war in Gaza and Ukraine has world leaders on the edges of their seats, waiting for yet another glass ball to drop. And while the Houthi story may sound tame and innocent, the Maersk detailed the firing of small arms weapons and attempted boarding by the rebels. In the early morning hours of December 31st, Maersk Hangzhou was sailing through the Red Sea when it came under siege for the second time in 24 hours. The second time around, the ship is approached by 4 small boats manned by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. The crew on board watched intensely as the rebels drew closer until finally the rebels fired upon them. The boats continued to creep up towards the merchant boat approximately 20 meters, and some even attempted to board. The Maersk Hangzhou merchant vessel was armed with onboard security personnel who tried to fend off the invaders, but the situation continued to escalate rapidly. The captain had no choice but to send out a distress signal once again. Brigadier General Yahya Saree, a Houthi spokesperson, explained that the vessel refused to respond to warning calls and, as a result, they sent out the 4 boats. Houthi forces have been attacking ships in the area since November, launching more than 100 drone strikes and missile attacks, and now attempting to seize vessels. The Yemeni rebel group previously claimed its attacks were directed towards vessels linked to Israel in response to the war in Gaza. But this is where the U.S. Navy steps in. MH-60S Nighthawk helicopters were dispatched from the destroyer the USS Gravely and the aircraft carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower to respond to the distress call. The Nighthawk crews issued several warnings to the boats below, not wanting to escalate and finish this conflict themselves. But the rebels were undeterred. Instead, they chose to begin firing at the Nighthawks. The Nighthawk helicopters are manned by highly trained Navy service members, with one of their primary missions being anti-surface warfare. High-stress situations are not foreign nor uncommon for deployed service members, and as such, they're trained to take certain steps or approaches. Seeing how this was the second attack on the Maersk, however, the crews above were ready to take out the threat at all costs. In self-defense and protection of the merchant ship, the Nighthawks destroyed 3 of the 4 boats. The 4th boat broke off from the miniature rebel fleet and fled back to shore. It's reported that 10 rebels felt the full force of the U.S. Navy that day, and as a reflection of their training, the crew members of both the boat and the aircraft continued on their journey safely. The Maersk Hangzhou is registered in Singapore and operated and owned by a Danish firm. It had been traveling in the area to deliver shipping containers when it was attacked. Sources say that the first attack happened the Saturday prior. Anti-ship missiles were fired from Houthi-controlled areas. The destroyers Gravely and Laboon responded to the incident. 2 anti-ship missiles were also fired at the pair of U.S. Navy vessels. USS Gravely struck down the inbound ballistic missile. This was the 23rd illegal attack by the rebels on international shipping since mid-November. U.S. Navy Admiral told the news agencies that Saturday's missile attack was the first successful strike since the launch of the global patrol. U.S. destroyers are nothing to trifle with, and neither are the MH-60S Nighthawk helicopters dispatched to protect international shipping vessels. U.S. Central Command has yet to confirm which squadrons were part of this conflict, but among them were likely to be helicopters from HSC-7, the Dusty Dogs, from Carrier Air Wing 3 aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Dusty Dogs fly the Sierra model of the MH-60 Seahawk and rely on their powerful, formidable 50 caliber machine guns that are mounted on the helicopter's starboard side, as well as AGM-114 Hellfire missiles and Mk-54 torpedoes. The MH-60S helicopters are versatile multi-mission aircraft. Crews take part in anti-surface warfare, combat support, humanitarian disaster relief, combat search and rescue, aero medical evacuation, and many others. They're equipped with twin turboshaft engines and have had significant modifications, folding main rotor blades and hinged tails to name a few. With attacks on the rise, Maersk and other shipping firms are choosing to divert their vessels away from the Red Sea and are opting to instead travel around the Horn of Africa. In order to reach the Suez Canal in Egypt, which connects the Mediterranean Sea, ships are forced to pass through the incredibly small Bab al-Mandab Strait. Despite the division of vessels, U.S. destroyers and aircraft carriers currently patrolling the Red Sea are expected to remain in the area for quite some time, staying vigilant at all times. What are your thoughts on this ongoing crisis? Let us know down in the comments what you want to see next. Until next time.